I still believe in a $100 or $1,000 XRP, but the potential for us to get there is completely dependent on two massive catalysts that have to take place for XRP. In today's video, I'm going to break this down in simple terms so it's easy for everybody to understand. Whether you're new to XRP, you're just finding my channel for the first time, and you're wondering, does this guy really believe in these big numbers of XRP? Let's run through it. And for those that have been here for a while, like myself, I've been studying XRP for nearly a decade. And one thing is for sure, the last time we saw catalysts like this play out before for XRP, it led to a 60,000% move from half a penny to $3.80 for XRP. Now, are we going to do that same percentage gain? We don't need to see these astronomical, these super high prices that many people say are impossible. But in today's update, I'm going to show you why I think that not only is it possible, we still are on the path. The timeline has been extended, which has been the most frustrating thing. But we're going to explain why that timeline, we're approaching the finish line. There's a light at the end of the tunnel. And in particular, I have two catalysts that I'm watching that take us to much higher prices for XRP. So without further ado, let's get into the video right here. I'm going to be back live today at 1 p.m. Eastern. Our live show schedule is Tuesdays at 1 p.m. Eastern and Thursdays at 10 p.m. Eastern. Hope to see you there. Now, the market's moving back up after cooling off a little bit through the night, pulling back here to 65,000 for Bitcoin this morning, but moving back up above 66 and even touching 67,000. Yesterday, we pushed up here to this level, and the crypto market bouncing back after the weekend was a weekend of calling off the Iran war, calling off the airstrikes, having a peace deal. Now we got a deal that's going to get signed this week, or so they say, and the market believes it. And perception is reality. We'll talk about actually what this means for XRP high prices later on too. Perception is reality. Okay, war's off. Let's pump the markets again. And XRP comes up here to $1.29 and catches a nice little run. Okay. Now, one other one that I'm pretty excited here about is Hyperliquid. This is one that I already traded out of. I made 56% profit on this trade, selling off at about 63. And I'm just kicking myself because we were watching for it to pull back to this level between $50 and $55. And that's exactly where it went to. It went down exactly to the levels where I wanted to scoop up some more, but I'm currently tapped out. I threw all of the money that I had at, a couple other trades, and I picked up some more XRP, and I picked up some more HBAR just about a week or so ago. And I'm going to continue to do so. And one other platform too that we got a lot of people picking up digital assets in is this tax-deferred or tax-free IRA that we got our good friends at iTrust Capital setting up for us. And iTrust Capital says today, Uncle Sam wants you to save on taxes today. Your crypto strategy deserves more than I'll figure out taxes later. A tax-advantaged crypto IRA at iTrust Capital could help you keep more of what you earn. Celebrate America's 250th birthday by declaring your financial independence. And yeah, I don't know. Uncle Sam, I don't know. We'll see. But what we do appreciate is iTrust Capital. They have the IRA product, the premium custody account, and the treasury accounts now for your business, your trust, your LLC. So 3 options. They actually have stocks and ETFs on the way as well. And then they've already listed precious metals for you, and it's all in free institutional grade custody. So take advantage of that. Use my link down below. Get your account funded, and you'll get a $100 funding bonus when you go check out our sponsor, iTrust Capital. XRP Ledger update is live 3.2, and this is where they have actually changed what the software is called. So it's not no longer going to be called Rippled. It's now going to be XRPL'd. Okay, Ripple D is now XRPLD. Old amendments are retired, and a fresh bundle of bug fixes keeps the ecosystem clean. Absolutely love this. Just the name change. Now, we move away from any sort of confusion. What's Ripple? What's XRP? What's the XRP ledger? Does Ripple own the XRP ledger? All this nonsense and FUD and confusion that we've had to battle for the last decade. With this clarification that the software is not Ripple's, the software is open source, decentralized, permissionless, just like Bitcoin, but it's a ledger with actual utility. And we're actually going to bring way more liquidity onto the XRP ledger than is ever going to be on Bitcoin. And we'll talk more about that later. But what we have right here is Santiment, is the platform here, and they're tracking the sentiment. Okay, so let me repeat that. So the platform's called Santiment, and they are tracking the sentiment of the community. And the sentiment hits its lowest level of 2026, and fear could signal relief. Because every time we see community sentiment get this bad, it typically is, it's actually always at levels where we catch a bounce, catch a relief rally, and then typically we go on to pump massively after that. So if you're looking for the best times to buy an asset, it's when it's hated. It's when even the own community sentiment is not feeling so great, right? And that's why with our platform, we always try to bring it back to the fundamentals. We try to bring it back to utility. I'm not trying to bring in new people to the XRP community with $1,000 and $10,000 XRP hopium hype. And I say that as I record an update here where we're going to be talking about the potential to go to very high prices. But once again, all backed by fundamental analysis. And I'm going to show you the two catalysts that I'm watching for that could actually, give us some grounding to have this conversation with. Now, what we're looking at here is the tokenization process. This is how you bring tens and hundreds of trillions of dollars on chain. And what we're seeing with XRP Ledger is it is rapidly growing with RWAs, and RLUSD is, of course, leading the way. RLUSD on XRP is up 224% this year, from 235 million to 762 million, according to XRP Ledger data as of June 10th. And don't forget, it still needs its swap kid. And they're talking about this blog post from Evernorth that they put out explaining the role of XRP and the fact that RLUSD does not replace XRP. This has been another point of confusion in the community that, whether it is me, whether it's Evernorth, we got a lot of people, people smarter than me, much smarter than me, that are breaking down how this works. And, it's just, you laugh. And then sometimes I just feel bad because I'm like, gosh, people really still don't get it. You can't use the XRP ledger without using XRP. You need an XRP wallet. You got to lock up XRP to do that. And every transaction burns XRP. Is the burn fee very small? Of course. But you simply can't. It's technically not possible to use the XRP ledger without that XRP fee being burned and without some XRP being used. So I know it's small, but just to clarify that point. And then what people really don't realize is that as more RWAs come on chain, where does the real demand for XRP come? It comes for the building out liquidity for those real world assets on the chain. So RLUSD needs to be paired up with XRP. The tokenized Japanese yen is going to get paired up with XRP, and all these other currencies are going to get paired up with XRP. And the other thing that happens is that XRP has a privileged role on the XRP ledger for auto bridging. So if you wanted to go from Tether to USDC, the fastest swap and the best liquidity on the ledger might be from USDC to XRP to then Tether, right? It's not just going to be USDC to Tether on the XRP ledger in a direct swap. The best liquidity might actually be USDC to XRP to Tether, with XRP being in the middle of that transaction as the bridge currency. And that's why, the auto bridging feature on the XRP ledger is one that people need to understand, because it directly it just destroys the whole point of, RLUSD is going to replace XRP or whatever FUD, people are trying to share with you today, right? It's just not true. It's not how the ledger works. Never was, never will be. Next, we watch as BlackRock's iShares Bitcoin Premium Income ETF, the ticker is going to be BITA, launches today. So I put this post out last night. They are targeting 15 to 25% annual yield. See, and this is where it's going to get interesting when you have proven managers, people that can actually generate returns for you. who have a track record, who have the best quantum strategies, they're the best quants. I mean, they have the best algorithms, they have the best systems to go actually generate returns for you. And BlackRock's coming out here and they're saying 15 to 25% annual yield on their Bitcoin Premium Income ETF. Now, I think what's happening here is BlackRock is clearing the way for their XRP ETF. They're not ready yet, right? It's the one that they've held back on, right? They got Bitcoin, they got Ethereum, and now they have the Bitcoin Premium Income ETF, but they still don't have the XRP ETF. I believe that that's coming, and I'm watching for the BlackRock Spot XRP ETF, and then it'll be interesting to see if they come out with a Premium Income ETF as well. And as I've been saying, when it comes to XRP yield, we're going to have so many options. The biggest suits from the ivory towers of BlackRock, that'll be an option. Or you'll be able to go to DeFi and, you know, the whole range in between DeFi and the centralized institutions like BlackRock. You'll have your pick. And all of these suits, all of these DeFi protocols, it's all coming to service you, the XRP holder. And all you got to do is hold that XRP, and all you got to do is secure that XRP. Make sure it stays safe while we wait for these next two catalysts to play out. And I'm going to explain what those catalysts are. What I'm watching for, and I think that this is the big one, right? I mean, we've ran through the numbers. I thought that the ETFs could have a bigger impact. They haven't, because it's been all OTC, right? Why haven't we seen, you know, the market cap multiplier applied to the ETF inflows? Because it's all been over the counter. So it hasn't really moved the price of XRP much. It's been very small. You know, but what I'm watching for next is not, you know, the BlackRock ETF. That would be big. We saw how that moved Bitcoin when they announced it. It would move XRP in a big way. And we'll see more ETFs that'll move XRP, you know, partnerships, utility, etc. But the biggest catalyst to move XRP right here is two things. First, it's the Clarity Act passing, but not just the Clarity Act passing for regulation, the specific rule. I believe it's Section 205, where it says that for a mature blockchain to be considered mature and not a security, no one entity, person, individual, company can own more than 20% of the supply. That is probably the most important line in the Clarity Act that I believe is a direct catalyst to XRP exploding in price. You want to talk about the big numbers? We can talk about the big numbers. That is the first domino to watch. If the Clarity Act passes with that provision in there, that means that Ripple has to get their holdings below 20%. The next catalyst after that is Ripple announcing that they've pretty much concluded the selling of their XRP. So the two catalysts are, one, Clarity Act passes with the 20% mature blockchain rule. That gets done, and then Ripple has to complete the distribution of XRP to all their banks and institutional partners, right? And then it takes Ripple down below that 20% number, and it puts them in a spot where I believe they actually stop selling XRP on a monthly basis. Will they still sell some XRP here and there? Do they still got to, you know, fund different sides of, liquidity in different corridors? So they'll probably still have to do it like a little bit. But we're talking about the programmatic selling of XRP coming to a complete halt. This brings us to the real supply shock. Right? These are the two catalysts that I think set the stage for us to have a real grounded conversation about XRP going to the big numbers. And the reason why I'm saying this is because the last time there was a huge catalyst that determined XRP supply dynamics, that was in the middle of that 60,000% move for XRP. Take a look at this. So I went to Grok to remind us all of the timeline here. Ripple announced the XRP Escrow on May 16, 2017. In a blog post titled, Ripple to place 55 billion XRP in escrow to ensure certainty of total XRP supply, the company with CEO Brad Garlinghouse committed to locking up 55 billion XRP, about 55% of the total supply. And they said that they were going to do it by the end of 2017. Now, the key follow-up dates is December 8th, Ripple announced that the escrow lockup was complete. And around mid-December 2017, the actual on-ledger escrow contracts were set up. So, I want you guys to see what happened during this time. So, once again, we got 2 dates to watch out for. May 16th, 2017, and then also December 2017. Okay? Let's go to the XRP price chart during that time. Now, what you'll see back here is that XRP had actually already started to move before the escrow got announced. And then I'm right back here is May 16th. So you're watching on this XRP price chart. This thing was down here at half a penny. Half a penny from 2016 coming into 2017. This thing had just broken above a penny and it shot up here to 6-7 cents. I mean, imagine, right? Imagine how many people sold off at that level, 6 pennies, because they bought it at half a penny. I mean, I've done this with many cryptos lately, right? You buy it at half a penny, you flip it for a few pennies. It's simple trading, right? But as you see right here, May 16th, then the very next day, that's when XRP topped out at 40 cents. And you got this like sell the news. It was like buy the rumor, sell the news after it occurred. And XRP went from 40 cents down here to 13 cents and then even came back and, back tested just under 13 cents again. And it chopped sideways for most of 2017 until December. Once the escrow was completed, that's when it set in for folks. And it just so happened to be taking place during the 2017 bull run, where you get this big rotation out of Bitcoin, out of Ethereum into XRP. And that's when it just went ballistic, right? Up to $3.80. And from the bear market low in 2016 to that level, you're literally at, 60,000% return. I mean, this just like a meme coin. But recall, right, that you already had to buy the rumor, sell the news on the announcement. So the announcement coming out caused XRP to finish that pump to 40 cents, but then it dropped back down to 13. Chopped sideways for, 6 to 7 months. And then it finishes the explosion up to $3.80. Imagine, that rally to 6 cents. A lot of people probably sold off and thought that was it. The rally back up to 40 cents. That was it, right? And then it comes back down to 13 and people are thinking, crap, I should have sold off at 30 and 40 cents. So the next time, later in 2017, they sell off at those levels. And then later in December of 2017, when they announced that it was completed, it was done, it was perfectly timed after, Bitcoin had topped out and then the escrow gets completed. And it's like all eyes turn to XRP again. And the inflows that came in were enough to take XRP from, 20, 30 cents all the way up above $3. And you look at the Launchpad that we're set up for right now, where we're above $1. By the time a lot of this plays out over the next 12 months or so, XRP is going to have a Launchpad up here of, $1.50, $2, even $3 XRP before this Clarity Act 1, it'll get signed into law this year, right? Hopefully July 4th, I'm not holding my breath, but hopefully before August recess. And even if it didn't, right? Even if it got delayed out, a year, right? We're entering this moment where we're about to get the Clarity Act signed, hopefully this year. But it will get done, a version of it. And the big catalyst here for XRP is that 20% rule. If Ripple has to get their holdings below 20%, I believe that is what sends, the ripple effects, the spotlight turns to XRP and people are going to go, well, what's Ripple going to do? And then this is where I think the veil gets lifted on all of those pre-allocation contracts with banks and institutions. And Ripple gets to come out and say, guys, hey, it's not a big deal. We've actually already pre-allocated, 20 billion 15 billion, whatever the number has to be to get them below that 20 billion number, they'll just come out and say, yeah, this is done. We've already prepared for this. I mean, we were in DC. Didn't you see us? We've had offices in DC for years. We were helping them draft this. We were well positioned. And maybe, just maybe, that was the plan all along. Take it one step further, though, to the second catalyst. And the second catalyst is Ripple doesn't want to take their holdings to zero, right? Do they want to hold 10 billion XRP? Do they want to hold 20 billion XRP? The conversations that I've had with them is they still want to hold a good chunk, but eventually they do want to stop selling. The whole plan all along has been for Ripple to stop selling. And so the two parts to this is the Clarity Act 20% rule. That brings Ripple's holdings down below 20 billion. And that sends a message that probably starts to move XRP. But then what finalizes that, just like in 2017, when they announced the escrow, little pump and dump, and then later that year when they finalize it, we go to the moon. Well, in this case, it's Clarity Act gets signed into law. The rulemaking process takes 6 to 12 months. Ripple, announces their plans to finish distribution. And then we get to a moment where the selling stops and Ripple says, we're done. And I believe that they will do that before they go public. And going public also allows them to not need that capital either. So this all converges together between now and 2030. Does Clarity Act get done and does all this happen this year? That's not what I'm saying. I'm not going to put a date on this. I'm not going to say XRP is going to XXX price before the end of the year. But what I am saying is these are the two catalysts to watch out for, which could drive a real supply shock for XRP and for once and for all, really provide the final clarity on XRP supply distribution. And I think that that's the signal that the market would need for a lot of people that have been on the fence to really, go all in like a lot of us did, or at least make an allocation to XRP. And we've shown you time and time again for XRP to go to, $100, for it to go to $1,000. The market cap bros are, they're just going to lose their minds, right? But we've shown you guys with the multiplier, we do not need hundreds of trillions. We don't even need tens of trillions to come into XRP to get us to those levels. I think once we start to see tens and hundreds of billions flow into XRP, that's all it's going to take for us to get to those astronomical prices, which seem impossible, which seem maybe silly to talk about, right? During the depths of the bear market, people are going to say, let's try $5. And I'm right there with you. I really am trying to keep the conversation grounded, but I think it would be a disservice not to point out these catalysts as the most important catalyst to drive a real supply shock and a real price explosion for XRP. That's why I'm making this video, to remind all of you guys that yes, I still believe in the big numbers for XRP. The timeline that I thought we were on was wrong. I was wrong. And I am willing to admit that, right? I'm not going to let, any sort of ego get in the way or anything silly of acknowledging that I've been wrong, right? Which is why now I like to take a step back, stay grounded. Short-term expectations, nothing too crazy. But I point specifically to these catalysts. Clarity Act passing with that 20% mature blockchain provision. And then the second part of that is Ripple having to finalize the distribution plan and stopping their sales of XRP. Imagine the signal that sends to the marketplace. Even the XRP haters are going to be FOMO buying into XRP, trying to chase that rally and chase that pump. And I think that is when we can get to those higher prices that we've been waiting for. But I want to hear from you guys in the comments down below. Let me know what you guys think about these two catalysts. Is this what it's going to take for XRP to reach those prices? Let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. And if you appreciate our content, please help us out by liking this video, sharing it out far and wide, and come on back at 1 p.m. Eastern here today for our live show. Thank you and God bless you all.
I am your host, Zach Rector. I really appreciate all of the love and support. If you want to support the channel, just remember that you can start by smashing that thumbs up for me, sharing this content far and wide, and everything else is at my website.